Oh,
We are live.
we are live.
Where do you know that tune?
I don't know. I thought I was gonna try something that we weren't gonna match, and we actually did match. That's kind of scary. Oh, so
Hello, Andy Shayla.
hey, Bambos, Charles Demetriou.
So
We are
today
here.
with J C Barnett.
We are with J C Barnett, and I'm not going to screw this intro up. We're with J C Barnett, and we're going to discuss
This on a wonderful.
what is this though? You haven't said what this is. What is this?
You just screwed it up, man.
We're going to discuss this: coaching and swimming and having a life of supporting others, and we're going to discuss that on
A wonderful chaos, people. A wonderful.
yes, Bambos.
Andy.
Here we are. It's a Friday. This is our 124th show.
124 shows.
124 shows with JC. And the best thing about having JC on is JC has watched most of our shows.
And he's read your book.
And he's read my book. What?
And he's taking notes.
And he's taking notes.
With pencil.
Yeah. Number 2.
And margin papers.
Yes. And it's fun because in a way, like JC will watch a show. Sometimes we have random subjects on that he kind of doesn't really get into. But you know what he always writes, what always makes me laugh my ass off? Something in the direction of confused and totally okay with that.
He hasn't adopted your, and it's fucking great.
He hasn't written and it's fucking great yet. I don't remember having said that. I think he still has some level of like people around him that he's trying to at least somewhat, but we'll talk about that.
Okay.
I thought
How does it feel to have someone from back in those days?
You know,
isn't it emotional?
It is emotional, but it's emotional for many, many reasons. Because JC was not my coach, because I'm the worst swimmer in the world. Like, I'm really bad.
I believe you.
But would you think I'm a fast runner? Would you believe that as well, or would you think no?
You've got strong legs.
Okay, so my body type was not suitable for swimming, right? He did coach my brother, but what I thought was incredible, and it was emotionally challenging, was that when I was doing my tour through the U.S., traveling and doing my book tour, he said, "Listen, Andy, I'd love to meet you." And so he drove a few hours out of his way to see me in Bloomington, Indiana when I was there. And it felt a little bit, I'm always, how I've always had a little bit of a struggle just receiving love. Well, for me, when he says I'm going to come visit, it's also saying I'm going to receive that attention, that affection, and that recognition. And so there's two sides of me. One side is like, oh, isn't that beautiful? And another side is like, wow, that feels a bit uncomfortable.
And it's fucking great.
It's fucking great. So he drove a few hours out of his way, and we spent a day together, and it was really sweet. And what I thought was so beautiful about it was that, think about this: we had time together when I went to my high school, Notre Dame, in Sherman Oaks, in Los Angeles, in the LA area.
Yeah.
And we hadn't seen each other for over 30 years. So when he comes and visits, it's a first time to meet one another. But in essence, you never know who you're really meeting, right? The person he knew at 17 or 18 years old obviously is very different in the 48, 50-year-old permutation of that person.
And the lens with who you saw him with also changed.
Yeah. But there's a weird beauty to it. And this is why I wanted to have this show specifically, was because, and it also refers a little bit to yesterday's show, is that when you feel loved and you feel supported and you feel in a way nurtured, there is a safety net that exists there.
He has it as a quality.
Yes,
I spoke to him just now for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And without anything, I just felt cared for.
Yeah. And that's it. I mean, and what I thought was really interesting is that a coach or anyone, because we're talking about sports at this moment, but usually when we talk about coaching, we're talking about, executive type coaching or just life coaching. But in this sense, being a sports coach is some ways no different. It's supporting people to believe in themselves more than they do.
Beautiful.
And in a way, JC wasn't. I didn't have JC as like, oh, let's get JC on the show. JC came on the show because people that he coached asked me to bring him on the show. They said JC would be great, and they said to me, which is really quite beautiful, was like he was like a father figure when I didn't get that at home. And I don't know, and I'm sure it would be, even when I said that and wrote it in the text, like I said, he is and has acted like a father figure. That was hard for him to accept, because in a way, I know we're just doing what we do, but we don't realize that for people that are suffering at home, not feeling loved, not feeling supported, the one guy who's giving them the courage and the belief in themselves is the one that gives them hope. So in that way, I feel incredibly indebted to someone like JC, who's really, and also on the show. I mean, I know some of these topics, JC is scratching his head like, who the hell are they bringing on and why, right? And yet there's always like good work guys. There's like a loving support. And there's something so beautiful in that. I think people don't realize how important that is to support and nurture it in the world. So yeah, that's the feeling that I came in.
Oh, you almost brought me to tears, Andy. It's overwhelmingly loving.
Yeah. And that lovingness, I don't see enough in the world. I don't see, I see a lot of the, what I expect it to be. And now I judge against my expectations and I tell you how to improve. But what I'm really missing and sorely missing is the unconditional love that says you're doing a great job and you can do an even better job if you do these three things differently. And a lot of people never receive that in their lives. So if they get one person in their lives that does give that to them, then that means a hell of a lot to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have our first comment and I want to put it on.
Yeah.
From Jamie A. Bishop, Coach Barnett was an incredible mentor and support to me. 86 to 89. There
Great.
You go.
That's incredible.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, we'll get a lot more of those, I assume. Okay, so I think it's good to bring him on.
Let's bring on Mr. J C
Well,
Barnett.
hello there.
Hey, JC. Okay, here's what this means. When a hand goes up, it means you want to slow down a little bit so we can ask another question.
Hand up.
Two hands.
Hands up.
Two hands means no. Stop talking.
I've already asked the questions almost there, so we've already taken care of the photography conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he just validated what several other professionals that I've talked to said. So it must be the thing to do.
And what I summarized and what Bambo said to you when you said, I want to figure out how to take better photos.
Buy an iPhone.
Get an iPhone.
Yeah. Well, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
Old school. I still have my Canon A1s. I definitely am not going to pay for developing a film anymore. I can get an SD chip and take pictures for 10 years and never fill it up.
So tell me, before we talk about cameras, how does it feel to be loved by so many people that you probably have very little contact with now?
It's humbling as far as that goes, but it's the root of my philosophy and coaching. You got to care about your athletes, in more than just the pool, as far as that goes. I remember, having football players in my class. Well, I went to every one of the football games. I went to the basketball games, and that was not just because Father Benjamin made me. It's because I wanted to support those. They knew that I supported them in other things than the classroom, because that, again, I have not gone back into the classroom. So, Notre Dame was such an incredible experience for me. As I tell people now, I learned how to teach from the monks at the Holy Cross. Brother Charles taught me how to teach. Father Bitterman taught me how to teach. Gigi taught me how to teach. Gary, you mentioned him the other day, taught me how to teach. That teaching lounge at Notre Dame was so much better than a college education in education. Yeah, as far as that goes, because there was nobody that was into themselves. I always say, Brother Charles told me at the very beginning when I was given a classroom, because remember, I was given a month to teach. I was on the deck coaching polo and swimming, and Bitterman came to me and says, I want to see if you can be a teacher. And he gave me his class for 1 month.
So hold on. You hadn't taught before you went to, so you were basically just a swim coach.
Swimming and water polo. It was in grad school. And Bitterman, now that class was Blackjack McDowell, several swimmers. It was the #1 history class. He goes, I'm going to give it to you for a month. And I'm assuming his impression of my teaching skills came from those students. Keep him or get rid of him.
Yeah.
And as I said, I was at Hoover High School before I came to Notre Dame. And I was approached by a parent at Notre Dame on the deck over at Hoover. And I was also called by a gentleman in the swimming community that was a Notre Dame alumni saying, you need to check this out. And went over.
Okay, but slow down. I want to get into a little bit more grounding of some questions here. When you go into your first class of teaching something you've never taught before, how is that for you?
The first thing is I hide my my true emotion, which is holy shit. I got 34 faces looking at me. And I go with what Brother Charles told me. Be their teacher, not their friend. And
oh, wow.
Brother Charles.
And how do you distinguish that? What would be the thing that
remember, friends can give up on you, teachers cannot.
Okay.
At least now, do teachers give up on people? Yes. I personally don't. Once you're in my class, you're a student of mine or a player of mine or a swimmer of mine for life.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I've had probably close to 24 Notre Dame students drop by Louisville to have dinner.
Yeah.
When I was up in Boston, had dinner with a Notre Dame alumni. And so in
a way, your responsibility, the perception of your responsibility really says, I'm going to caretake as long as it makes sense with anyone that
sometimes it's nothing more than a phone call.
Yeah. How was that for your wife, by the way? Because she must have been at some points at wit's end, like, hey, you got a family here. What do you spending so much time?
My wife has that same attitude.
Oh, yeah?
My wife still calls her students children.
Oh, wow.
And she was a teacher at Notre Dame.
Okay.
And that's why some people think my wedding was more of a swim team banquet than actually a wedding. Bitterman, who hired me and gave me the most problems and got on my case the most, is the priest that married me.
Yeah.
But if you look at my wedding photos, it looks like either a teacher's meeting or a swim team banquet.
Yeah.
That's basically what my my reception was in Mrs. Hatton's backyard. My water polo parents were my bartenders. The caterers were all my swim team moms. It was.
How was it to come from Kentucky to basically Southern California, which is really night and day? You can't have two kind of diametrically opposed that are so different in one. Yeah. When's the last time Kentucky voted Democrat or California voted Republican? That I don't know.
No, you better know your history here. I mean, definitely, it's still a history geek. Kentucky's governor, the last one, was Republican, but the 30 before him were Democratic.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. See, we don't always, the local's different than the national as far as that goes. So, and you got to look at it. Kentucky has about 4 million people and 1 million live in one county.
Oh, wow.
And
JC,
my relatives, yes.
Okay. I'd like to, I'm listening to you,
mm-hmm.
and all this energy, all this nurture, my brain is tracing it beyond you, and I'm thinking about your parents right now.
Yeah.
If you want to speak a little bit about your upbringing.
Okay. My ancestors first came into Kentucky in 1770.
Tell me about mom and dad. Mom and dad.
1790.
Tell me about mom and dad. Don't go to ancestry. That's a word that's way beyond the scope of the question.
I do have some Dutch ancestry. I got some Van Hooks in my family, but we're mostly Ulster Scots. No, my dad grew up in a small Kentucky town. With my mom did too, yeah.
What were their jobs? What were your parents' jobs?
They were My dad was a farmer. My mom, my grandfather was a county judge, and which is kind of like the mayor of the county.
Yeah.
and magistrate. He did several different jobs. But my dad was a farm kid. With a farm that's been in our family for a couple hundred years, and he wasn't good enough of an athlete to get a college scholarship, and that was the only way he was going to go to college. He ended up joining the Navy during Korea. He was a tin can sailor, mainly he was served on a destroyer. When he got out, he put that GI Bill to use, and he went to college.
Oh, wow. Got
his degree in engineering and ended up being an executive engineer type of, he rose pretty high in the company, worked for Brown Williamson. And I kind of had my foot in both things, even though we lived in Louisville, as far as that goes, moved there in the 60s, early 60s. I was only about 4 years old. All my relatives are from Cynthiana, Kentucky, which is very rural. And so, yeah, I'm probably the only swimmer that's ever housed tobacco, cut tobacco, and frog gigging and hunting.
Did dad expect you to somehow continue the farm? How did you move away from the farm?
I got cousins that have college educations in agriculture and things that do that. He did not expect that at all. Do I own a small piece? Yes. Okay, that I inherited. But I got professional farmers doing that for me. I get a check once a year, and that's about it. And I go down there and visit them all the time. And my dad's ashes are scattered around a log cabin on that farm. Yes.
Wow, that's beautiful.
First row, second seat.
JC, how was the love between you, your mother, and your father?
I think it was pretty hot. Well, I don't know. When you guys talk about this, do we, do we have a poundage type thing?
Like yesterday's podcast.
My brother.
Yesterday's podcast, Andy kind of talked a little bit about me having a rough childhood, and today I spoke to my sister's son, and we were talking about the podcast from yesterday, and we kind of said getting a beating with a belt was a very normal thing. Like I think in every household in Cyprus, it was very normal to get beaten up by your teachers and by your parents, like on a daily basis. Even in some households, it was a norm. And when I came to this part of the world, it was like, that's violence, that's unacceptable. So
did I ever get spanked? Yes. Did I deserve all 3 times? Yes. One time I was 6 years old, stole a piece of candy from the store. My dad basically gave me 2 smacks on the butt, took me back up to the store, made me apologize to the manager, and then says he's going to give my 6-year-old son is going to give you about an hour and a half worth of work. And that manager made me sweep the halls of this dime store, pushing that big. The broom was bigger than me. Then I got spanked when I lied. I got a bad grade on a paper, tried to deceive him. And when they found out, he goes, you should have just told me you got the bad grade. The fact that you deceived and you lied, you learned the lesson as far as that goes. But going back to Andy, when I came to California, I was kind of bullied there. But again, my generation bullying is character building.
Yeah.
I had the support of the swim team I was on. I was selected as captain 2 weeks after I got on campus. And so when you would pick on me, yes, I was the only Kentuckian on Pasadena City College's campus. Definitely, I stuck out. I said, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I opened doors for people. Okay, well, you're that guy. I started getting a lot of that. And then, but it's character building.
Yeah.
The first semester I was in college out there scared the hell out of me. I was calling home once a week. And, but I had the support of roommates who I talk to on a weekly basis now. And I'm going to be seeing another one who's moved down to Gallatin, Tennessee. I'm going to see him in about 2 weeks. A lot of them attended my daughter's wedding last year. Flew out here, stayed with me. So I keep in contact with about 20 of my old college teammates. I've met all their children. I send their children birthday presents. I text them probably once or twice a week. So I'm one of those kind of people that, yes, I've had friends for, I had a friend of mine that I've known since 9, passed away about 6 months ago.
Sorry to hear
I have friends that long.
The thing that this is something that I can't explain to anyone who hasn't lived in the U.S. is that sports play such a pivotal role in the development and the society, kind of what's expected of your own sort of high school journey.
Yeah.
And when I try to explain that to people that live in the Netherlands, there's field hockey, but it's sort of like a fraternal sort of thing. It's not like, hey, everyone in high school plays a sport. What the sport you play kind of identifies you with a group, and then that group is sort of like a cohort. Like, as you said, you spend a lot of time and you have contact with a lot of times the rest of your life. And what I find interesting is that I didn't realize how unique that was to America until I left. In Australia, that certainly isn't the case, or Japan, that wasn't the case either, of course. So yeah, that's one of these things I find when you speak, it's fascinating for me that you have such a bond. And then again, it's not fascinating because that's how it is in the U.S.
Oh, youth athletics and high school athletics and what we call travel athletes, those are the ones that do it year round. And then when you go to the university, you're either a collegiate athlete or you play intramurals or you play fraternity sorority sports, are very important, in my opinion. Right now the pandemic is playing kind of havoc with high school athletics. And, there's no two states handling it the same way. My season starts, they've moved it back a month, starts the 1st of November. And so trying to keep these kids who are going to school remotely, but yet on November 2nd, we're going to be at the pool. And, trying to keep the uncertainty to a minimum. There's certain facts in life. In life, you are a swimmer. Facts in life that I'm your coach. You have a coaching staff. You have a group of parents that are behind you. I can't say that enough. The athletics in this country would be nothing without parental support.
Yeah.
I mean, at Notre Dame, the list went on and on of parents. You had one as your guest, Gigi.
Yeah.
I got pictures of her timing swim meets.
I saw those pictures you posted.
Okay, well, that was very impressive to me. Here I have a Hollywood star who is notable for what she does, but yet she's taking her shoes off, rolling her pants up, and is timing at my swim meets.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And that was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people say, well, no, I don't need to time.
I got a question for you about when you're coaching. I had a really bad experience my freshman year in high school. I was on the football team, and in the football team, I was if someone got injured, I was the second to get on, right? I was backup. And I went the whole season and I didn't have one play when I was in the game. So imagine that, an entire season working out and not going in for one play an entire season, which is so demoralizing. You're like, what the hell am I doing? But on one instance, the person who I was supposed to go in for got injured. So now I'm the one who is supposed to go on the backup. But as soon as I get in and ready to back this person up, the coach switches out and puts another player in my place. So from that moment forward, I had no interest in the game anymore. Because
it's one solution to your problem.
What was that?
Should have played water polo.
But the funny thing is this is how it continued. So I was then the fastest runner in my class. The coach of the varsity team saw that, and he said, wow, he saw me playing physical PE, and he said, I want you on the team. And I said, I'm never going back again, because the one opportunity when I was betrayed in my head was such that I didn't want to go back on that field. That was, I quit emotionally that day. And what I realized is that coach had no clue the cost that they had incurred on on me in this case. The demoralizing the individual. And for me, that would have been terrible coaching, because on a one level, if you don't inspire the people and you demoralize them, then you're saying, hey, the outcome is more important than how we get there. And the question I had for you is, how was it for you when there were people on the swim team that weren't as good as other ones, but they were trying and they were, working hard? How would you treat them when it came to like swim meets? Like, how did you deal with that kind of situation?
There's no difference between your number one swimmer and your not number one swimmer. There's no difference as far as that goes. Everybody joins a team for a different reason. And and are there for different reasons. Again, I have kids on my team that train year round with a USS team, and I don't train them physically. I do other things for them. Then I have kids that I train that are coming, say, I get a lot of cross country / track people, because swimming is in the winter. There's only one difference between swimmers and runners: the water. That's the only difference. They're basically the same kid.
Really?
I got a ton
same build.
same build, same mindset. Back and forth, running around in a circle. It's the same thing. And I get a lot of cross country people, because the cross country coach's attitude is, what better rehab than a swimming season for your legs between cross country and track?
Sure.
And so, and I've had a lot of kids that swam for me that go on to track stardom. They go on to get a college scholarship in track, but they swam 4 years for me in high school.
Yeah.
And it's just swimming, 85% of the muscle in your body are working. It builds the cardiovascular up. You can't get much of a better exercise than swimming.
Yeah.
And it's a lifelong skill.
Yeah, for sure.
Sooner or later, you're going to have to stop running because the knees give out. Well, that's not true of swimming. But when it comes down to what the main product of what I do, at least in my impression, and I've been given this not because of self-evaluation, because people have told me, I give you confidence. And that confidence starts in the water, and then it spreads off to other things outside the water. If you look at the kids that came to me when they were freshmen, even at Notre Dame, and all of a sudden they were class officers 2 years later, or they the drum major of the band, Notre Dame, Combs and his staff had an unbelievable marching band, one of the best in the country.
And his band members went on to create some of the best rock groups in the world.
Yes.
Jane's Addiction were his band members.
I had all those guys in history class.
Oh, did you?
Yes. And so it all comes down to confidence.
Yeah.
I had a young man who was actually the son of a young man that I had 15 years earlier. He asked me, "Do you know this guy?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I know him." He goes, "Well, that's my father." I said, "So now you're back." And at the end of the class, he goes, "Thank you for making me believe in things beyond my expectations." Well, I said, "Well, thank you. It's only taken me 40 years to define that." And because, you do what you do by what you know. The coaches I had were were fantastic from a young age. My parents were on deck my dad was on a committee to bring the national championship to Louisville 6 months after I joined the sport.
Wow. I
mean, I was the lowliest swimmer on the pool deck, and my dad jumped in with both feet. My mom jumped in with both feet, and ended up basically being the person that taught the state of Kentucky how to run a meet. And he's still talked of very highly. And they jumped in with both feet and were very supportive. I had a very supportive team at Pasadena and coach, and same thing at Cal State Northridge. And then when I get to Notre Dame accepted me no holds barred. Oh, that's the Southern kid. That's the kid that wears cowboy boots in class. Okay. That's the person that talks funny. And I've been very fortunate. I've been around a very promoting type of atmosphere, and my wife, a Cajun, who always puts up with me. Okay. Yeah. I don't know why. I guess she loves me, but did she
ever listen to our show when you're listening to the show, or are you always away?
My wife is still teaching. She said 4 years ago she's going to retire in 4 years. She counted down 3 more, 2 more, 1 more. Then we get to 1 more, and she goes, "Okay, more than 5 more years." My wife and I are journeyman teachers. We teach people things. She's still in math. In fact, she was selected as Educator of the Year by the University of Chicago about a week ago.
Wow.
She's going to be on some kind of presentation on October 22nd. It's like a Wednesday, University of Chicago. And this is the second award that she's gotten like that from a major university, as Educator of the Year. There's several of your classmates that claim that she's the best math teacher on the face of the globe, and repeat it to me quite often.
I don't think I had her in math.
JC.
Yes.
One thing's really becoming apparent. Someone that invests so much time to make phone calls, to go to kids' games,
To visit me in Indiana?
To visit. You have a principle which I see myself and Andy also living by, and that's relationships. Relationships.
Well, you got to care. Some people go through this life and they really don't care.
Well, people might do something because they want something, and the way I hear you living, it's just the pure giving.
First of all, what do I want? It's funny. I was walking down Main Street of Louisville, Kentucky about 2 years ago with a friend of mine was in from out of town, from California. As I walked down the street, everybody walked past me. I made eye contact and said, "How are you doing?"
Yeah.
With that kind of tone. And then my friend goes, "Did you know all those people?" I said, "No, didn't know one of them." Because I was taught, if you make eye contact, if it's a guy, you got a minimum, give him the masculine nod. Hey, if it's a young lady, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
Hey, I went to Cotillion. My parents wanted to make sure I didn't grow up to be a heathen. So I got sent to Cotillion to teach me which one's on the salad fork, and teach me some manners. Well,
Ronnie asked me that all the time. Did you know that person? I'm like, no, they were just very friendly. Why wouldn't you
make eye
contact? Why wouldn't you just greet them?
And your voice should be precise, and it should have some sincere. What was that term? Sense of humanity in our presentation.
Yeah, sense of humanity in our presentation. That was on our show.
Look at that smile.
Yeah, he's taking notes, Ambos.
JC.
There's certain things you can have a person that I don't understand a word they're saying, and then all of a sudden they'll say, like, bowl along. I write down all the time. He's a fountain, and it's like when you had Kenny on there, that man's laugh is infectious.
Yeah.
Considering what he's been through, and he has a laugh like that.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Oh man, you should put it in a bottle and
just out of curiosity, what's your favorite show so far, if you have one?
Oh, it's got to be the guy with the tumor.
Oh yeah.
The guy with the tumor. I enjoyed a lot of them, but the guy with the tumor is really the one that I sat there and,
It's his birthday today.
It's his birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's good that tell him I said happy birthday. He'll say, who in the hell is that? But I enjoyed G's thing. I enjoyed Craig Goosen. I had him in class.
Yeah.
Denise Light.
Yeah.
Boy, I tell you, it's a tough world to live in.
Yeah, hundreds of divorces.
Yes. People at their lowest point.
Yeah, people at the lowest point. Amazing.
And but I have kids.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Bambos.
I want to actually change subject.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you've been reading The Wounded Healer, and I'm wondering, where are you right now, and how is it? What are you getting from it?
Okay.
Bring out the notes.
I got writing in the columns.
Those of you who don't know, The Wounded Healer is a book that Andy Shaleff wrote,
and was very kind. They sent me a copy with a great inscription. I started out reading actually from the backwards, but I have found a couple things. One, I need to be in the right frame of mind and need the right surroundings to read that. I can't just sit in my recliner and just start reading it and go boom, 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 boom. No, I read a couple chapters, then I stop and I think and I take some notes and I let it absorb. The Big Sur, 4 chapters there. My favorite is still chapter 13, no feedback. And,
you know which one he's talking about? I didn't even realize it was chapter 13. It was fuck you and your fucking feedback.
I tell you, I'm not going to use that terminology.
I love the way you explain it, though.
And I do use that. I've read that thing on the side of the ocean, looking at the sun coming up in swamps at Massachusetts. I've read that sitting at the diner, the Red's Diner in Salem. I read that flying on the airlines. And actually, I've had probably maybe a dozen people stop me and ask me about it. Now, I don't do anything more than saying, yes, it's a book about the journey and a radical self-love. Who happens to be a former student or player or brother of. And actually, I've gotten into talking to people about it because it's amazing the number of people. Now, so when I go out and I travel around the road, I get it. I always sit at the bar. I only go into mom and pop places. I don't go to chains.
Mm-hmm.
And I get into conversation with people. And it's amazing the number of people that are looking for somebody to talk to. You know, that all you have to do is say hello, and then boom, I get the family history. And I sit there, nod my head, or do it. You know, it's like at Reds. There's a guy that's been going there for 50 years. Every time I come in there, he shows me the pictures of his grandchildren. The waitress has told me he doesn't talk to people from out of town.
Wow.
And the fact that he comes over and talks to me, I guess I got that kind of face, as far as that goes. And but you know, my wife and I'm very fortunate that I have a wife that basically feels the same as I do. My wife has been teaching for over 35 years. She goes into school at 6 o'clock every morning, opens her door, and will tutor any kid that comes, whether it's a student of hers or not. Any kid in the building, if they need a math tutor, they can come to Mrs. Barnett's class. And
I want to like touch on this a little bit, because it's you know, when people talk about lives, and they'll talk about lives of service, and they say the most beautiful lives are the ones experienced, right? Are the people who feel as if they're living a life of service. And, you know, it's one of those criteria. If you look at their wealth, or if you look at the status or their fame, like the criteria of fulfillment comes from, do I feel like I'm living a life of service? And it's interesting because in some ways, it doesn't feel like you came to the point of a life of service. It almost feels like you were born, and that's just was in your DNA from a young age, and you just continue to do it like it was normal.
I think it's a true statement. Somebody says, why do you do this? And I said, I do it because that's who I am. You know, I can't explain it. I could go back and try to look at who I picked that up from. Nobody has an original thought. They just have a thought that somebody else already said, but you Andy sized it, or you JC sized it.
Yeah.
And that's just it. There's no things that's original. You just made it your own. And again, my wife has that attitude. Again, she still calls her, you know, when we had those Notre Dame alumni stop by the house and we went out to dinner, she still called them children. They're in their 50s.
Yeah.
And she still referred to them as children.
But I mean, when you came to visit me, I, as weird as it sounds, have this idea that you're still the coach. So even if we were like really close in age, you know, we had Bill Applebloss on, who was also a teacher, right? But in a weird way, I still see him from the eyes of the high school student looking at the adult in the room, which I wasn't at that time. So I have the same when it comes to you. You're still the coach, even if our ages would even be the same. It wouldn't matter.
12 years.
Yeah, 12 years.
Most of the time, and I've always laughed at this, I never correct anybody. When they referred to me or when they contact me, they always contact me either Coach or Mr. Barnett.
Yeah.
If they feel like they want to call me by my first name, let's go for it. But, you know, you've definitely heard. Remember, I spent my youth at Notre Dame. You guys might have been 15, 16, 17 years old. I was only in my mid-20s. That's pretty young.
Yeah,
I can say that now. But I spent my youth there. You know, didn't go to a Catholic school when I was at home. I was a public school kid. I went to a Catholic school in my 20s.
I mean, it's kind of dangerous if you think about it, because you're at a school not all that different in age from the students that you're educating.
No, you're right.
It is not a safe environment, because the kids are also looking up to you as an authority. So there's
a lot of pressure.
There must be.
Because the first group I had at Notre Dame was the class of 82, 83.
Yeah.
You know, when I graduated college, it was 1980. So I was still pretty young as far as that goes. And, you know, I would not trade my time I had at Notre Dame for anything. I looked upon myself as being very fortunate, lucky, you know, whatever you want to put it into, as I was lucky to be there. Yeah. You know, if you look back on your life and you say, well, I should have done this or I shouldn't have done that. And I think to myself, no, because right now, you know, I'm married for over 33 years. I've got 2 daughters that are college educated, and we were able to pay for college. Now they're married and they're living good life. Home run.
Yeah.
as far as that goes. Home run. And as my dad says, as long as 51% of the people like you, you're doing better than any president in history. And I've had somebody go, well, Barnett, you're still kicking it up there around 80%. Well, hell, I can deal with 20% of the people don't like me. They haven't talked to me, and I'll try to change their mind. As I talked about, we talked about bullies a little bit. When I had my first bully in 4th grade, but by 5th grade, I had him converted to being a friend of mine.
Oh yeah, funny.
So,
what are you gonna say, Bob?
How did you meet your wife?
On Notre Dame's campus.
He didn't have any place else he went. So as far as he's concerned,
that's a true statement. My wife was from Salt Lake, Louisiana, which is now in the grips of another hurricane. So we've been trying to get in touch with her sisters. Back in the 80s, there was an oil embargo, and they couldn't afford to pay the teachers in Louisiana. She comes to California, and Notre Dame is one of the places she interviewed.
Okay.
The first time I met her was that first summer she came in and taught summer school. I was in the office sitting on a desk with a pair of surfer shorts on and no shoes and a shirt, talking to some students. I was the water polo coach. I looked like one. And she comes in looking for Father Bitterman. And she goes, you shouldn't be. She basically corrected my behavior. And the students go, you're talking to Mr. Barnett. And she goes, I really don't care. Get your ass off the desk. So I got down off the desk. Then I see her at book sales, and I ask her, do you need some help? And she, not hardly. And then she goes, well, I heard you're from Kentucky. I don't need any help from anybody from Kentucky. And then I said, well, Cajuns, I'm shaking my head, you don't even have, you had Napoleonic law. And we started doing the old Southern batting stuff, LSU versus UK. Mm-hmm. And so, push came to shove.
Well, when does it turn to romantic? Now the story is interesting for me. So at what point does someone make the move? When did you know you were in love?
During one football game, she was working in the outside stadium ticket office. The one was outside the stadium. I stood out there for 3 hours talking to her. And I said, okay, well, Barnett, you're caught.
3 hours.
If you're going to stand out here during the entire football game and talk to this lady, and she basically didn't say anything other than yes, 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 and I did all the talking, I knew I was done. Sold. As far
anyone
as
anyone that can listen to me for 3 hours is someone I could spend the rest of my life with.
That, and she was a lot of the water polo players who were not that academic. She basically made them mathematically stable.
Oh wow!
And so they came back and said, "Mr. Barnett, she's fantastic."
No,
the students gave her reference. Oh, we heard Mr. Barnett is dating Mrs. Broussard, and I said, "Oh, I didn't." She was the best. They were the best reference for her, as far as that goes. And I said, my wedding looked more like a more like a swim team banquet.
We've got some of your former students. Jamie Bishop, we said earlier, he was very happy to have you, and Kelly Joye is also saying that she was very.
Well, that's
lucky
very nice. You. That's very nice. Mm. Yeah. Again, Notre Dame I was very fortunate to be there.
Okay, so Bob, what did you have?
Start asking some more questions.
You went to the love life, which I thought was interesting. I like that. We got the parents. I still don't know how the relationship was with your parents, and I'm okay with that. I'll let that settle. Would you say
relationship was very good? I had trouble, in my opinion, even though my parents didn't indicate that, I had trouble dealing with what I perceived as their expectation.
Okay.
Again, in the state of Kentucky, if I was state champion but didn't do my best time, I was always under the impression they would dwell on the best time instead of winning the championship. Or did I do my best time and not win the championship? I'll be honest with you, that was totally me.
Nice.
Thinking too much.
Bolalang has some thoughts on your wife, and he says he suspects that she fell in love with you the first time she told you to remove your hands from the table.
I think you have to ask her and let us know.
Yes, we need to find that out. That's an important question.
Bolang is actually, because obviously Bolang's got a little Cajun in his blood, because those Cajuns think us Kentuckians are a little are heathens and we have our elbows on the table and stuff like this. He's
Bolalong-
obviously an LSU fan.
No, he's not. Bolalong is in South Africa. He hates all sports. He hates all religions. He hates all everything, right, Bolalong? Support me on this.
I tell you, I've got several of his quotes. Again, I've got several of his quotes written down.
Oh yeah, Bolalong. You should know that Bolalong. JC is quoting you. I have an important question, and this sounds very funny because this also comes from the book. When I drove the Indian guy. And his name was JW. You might not have gotten to that chat yet.
I'm taking my time.
Okay, but the question I have for you is, what does JC stand for?
Really, you don't know? Actually, that was the number one question I didn't even answer when I was at Notre Dame. It stands for John Clay.
John Clay.
John Clay Barnett.
Wow.
John Clay Barnett, JCB.
I was not John. I was John Clay or John when I left Kentucky. When I first got to California, because I didn't have an apartment yet, my grandmother would send me mailed and it would be delivered to the pool. Mm-hmm. And then the coach would shout your name out. Well, all those Californians were going, "Oh, John Clay Barnett," like this. And as I tell people, they Hollywoodized it down to JC. It was two of my teammates that basically came up with the moniker JC. And then when I had Kentuckians come out and visit me, and they just noticed that everybody was calling me JC, that handle went all the way back to Kentucky, and it's stuck. Now the people that knew me when I was in high school call me John.
Okay. And let's say when you purchase something, what do you sign?
John C. Barnett.
Okay. So you really do sign your name.
Yeah. Not all the time. If I'm lazy, I go JC,
Because my name, I always hated signing Chaliff. So Andy Chaliff, Chaliff is a written signature. It's just such a pain. So I changed my name when I was 20 to Andy Ray. So whenever I sign anything, it's always because my middle name is Raymond.
I didn't.
Well, see,
it's just Andy Ray. Like it's never Chaliff.
Raymond.
Yeah,
Raymond.
Yeah, okay. My grandpa's name was Raymond.
Again, I grew up in the days where you actually could read somebody's writing. Yeah. And when somebody, I can read your writing. That is so refreshing.
Oh, okay.
Because most time people just squall it. You can't, straight line. That's it.
I always have to qualify when I speak for Bolalong because I do it so often. He says, I love sports as a participant, not as a fan of a team. Yes.
Yeah. You spoke too soon on old Bolalong. I knew
I did. I paraphrased.
Because I tell you, some of your shows, I just can't grasp. It's not within my world. But then when he says something, then it brings it all into clarity.
Okay, so Bolalong is kind of the translator for the two of us.
Yes, very much so.
What was the show that you found furthest out there? You're like, where are you guys, and how the hell did you get there? What was that show for you?
The guy that is dying, and he's going to die out loud. I thought he was very negative.
Oh, really? Very
negative. At least that's the impression I got.
So you felt it was negative in terms of what? And give me an example.
Well, and I can't say, because I'm not in his position. I'm not in his world. But as I say, I'm an Ulster Scot. I plan on having a wake. I do not plan on having a funeral.
Okay.
You better bring your Hawaiian shirt and bring your glass. I'll supply the liquor, and I'll have my little production. And I want to have a party. That's what a wake is. A couple of my relatives had wakes, and they were a blast. Okay, you walked out there going, yeah. Instead of going, oh no.
Yeah.
Have some
fun. Did you feel like, because this whole thing was about dying out loud, right? It was about celebrating life till the end.
Yeah, but some of the things he turned negative on, like I would tell people to go screw themselves. Why?
Good point.
If I'm dying, I'm going to fill my life with as much positive energy as possible. Well, here's a good analogy. When some people gripe about the rain, you know what I say? It makes the grass green.
Yeah.
Take the positive attitude. Don't always take the negative.
And it's good for the cardiovascular.
And I was going to say, every time I complain about the rain, Rambo says that's the only time I really want to go out running. It's the best. Try
to dodge those raindrops. But no, it's going to make the grass green. You got to try to stay positive. There's enough stuff in this world pushing you down.
Yeah.
You got to stay with the positive.
But you got to see the people that have, I don't know if you've noticed this, you've been watching the show, and this hasn't been our plan, but it has been a theme that's come up, is there's a lot of backlash towards religion on this show. There's a lot of people that have come on that have had really, really strong feelings against religion. Have you felt in that? Have you seen that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, religion and politics and things like that are all very personal.
Mm-hmm.
They change from everybody. There's no consistency. If you look historically, how many wars have been fought over religion?
Yeah.
The majority of them. Okay. I think some people attach religion to their culture, and I don't know if that's a good connection.
Yeah.
As far as that goes. Did I go to Bible school when I was a little kid? Yes. Do I attend Mass at Notre Dame? Yes. Do I attend? My wife is Catholic. My children are Catholic. I'm Presbyterian. Do I go to a Catholic church? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I get what I can get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, treat others as you would have them treat you.
Yeah.
Seems like a good rule.
Exactly.
Who said it first?
Yeah. I think that the difference is that somehow in your life and my life, I've found a way that it hasn't corrupted. People haven't turned against me. There hasn't been a backlash against me because of me not accepting the religion that they were accepting. And that we don't have to go into it, but at least that's some of the negativity that I've seen a lot of on the show, which has surprised me. I didn't know that people felt so pressured by religion until we did this show.
I will never use religion. I will never use politics. I will never use sexual orientation. I will never use gender. I will never use nationality as a determining factor on how I care for somebody.
Sure.
It's, again, as I said, I told you the other day, I had 2 hearing impaired kids come to me who didn't know how to swim. When they first got in the water, in the 4 foot of water, they walked their first 25. And I looked at my assistants and I said, well, all we got to take care of is the angle. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, they were vertical swimmers, and we got to make them horizontal swimmers. And I was doing this all through a sign language interpreter. And those 2 kids, we opened up a huge world to them.
Yeah.
And when their parents went to the counselor and says, our kids need to get involved with something, they shouldn't let this hearing impairment stop them. The counselor says, join the swim team. And they said they can't swim. And the counselor says, don't worry about it. JC will take care of that.
Yeah. I remember one of the worst memories of my childhood, the most embarrassing ones, was when I went to go help at a blind Olympic swim meet. And I was there trying to support these kids who were competing. And I had to try to explain the backstroke to someone, young, how they'd never done it before. And I spent 3 minutes, I couldn't figure out how to explain it, right? It just every word. And then all of a sudden, from the frustration, I saw somebody else doing it. And then, they're blind, but I said, oh, look at him. Just thinking.
As a person that has spent time with the Kentucky School for the Blind, with swimming, as well as Special Olympians, don't be fooled by somebody else's perception of limitations. Because what I found out working with blind kids, they're not as blind as you might think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even though we had people at the wall with those sticks with a tennis ball in the end to tap them when they get too close to the wall, half the time they didn't need to do that. The kids knew where the wall was.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So just because we perceive them as having a limitation, don't necessarily buy into that, as far as that goes. Here I have 2 kids from other countries. One of them was straight from the Congo. They both had drowning incidents in their youth,
Wow.
and didn't know how to swim. Well, within a month and a half, my staff and I and my team was very much into that. They were swimming 100 yards backstroke in freestyle in high school meets, and in some cases winning the heat. We think, oh, well, somebody tell me this person can't do this. I love proving people wrong.
Yeah. And I think this goes back to the show we had yesterday, is that when you treat someone as if they have a disability, they behave in accordance with that. and treat them as if they don't, and just give them the respect and expectation that they'll figure it out, then all of a sudden they just sort of do it. And it's so effortless because there's been no obstruction through this sort of hidden idea like, oh, maybe they can't do it.
Exactly it.
Yeah.
You know, I had one young man who missed his first race. And I said, why'd you miss your race? And he goes, I was scared to get up on the block. His second race comes up. I basically grabbed him by the shoulder, put him up on the blocks, and I stood right next to him on the blocks. Took a step back to get out of the way, but I was standing right next to him. He swam the race fine. I said, and I just pointed when he finished. I said, do you need me anymore? And he goes, no.
Nice.
Once I gave him that confidence, I'm going to walk you to the block. I'm not going to get wet. They don't allow me to do anymore, and I'm kind of a fat old man now. So, but I'm going to walk you right to the block. Sometimes I'll send the captain. That's what captains do. If a young freshman feels nervous about getting up on the block, you take him to the block.
Yeah.
And, you know, one swimmer's like, I have 90 kids on my team last year, and nobody's on the block alone. And obviously we broke down some barrier with that young man, you know, as far as that goes. I mean, he was so scared he wouldn't get up there for his first race, which he was totally prepared to do. Well, getting up, as you know, getting up there and waiting for that gun.
Yeah.
Well, they're no longer a gun. It's a beep now. It's a barrier to go through.
Oh my God, it is. There's such an intense feeling in that. We got about 4 minutes left, and I'd like to transition to a topic that it's very close to my heart, and it's your feelings towards the hat wear of Bambos. So, what is it about Bambos's hat wear that you found so offensive?
No. So you see, you're thinking it's the hat. You didn't read what it said on the hat. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. See.
Which hat are we talking about?
Had a Charlie Daniel,
Jack Daniels.
Jack Daniels. Okay.
Yeah.
Here in the South, we have rivalries in football and basketball in the colleges. We also have rivalries in the whiskey. Okay. Here in Kentucky, we have bourbon. Down in Tennessee, they have sour mash. And here I am looking at a guy wearing a Jack Daniels hat. I'm not going to let that slide.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
I've got to let
the box. You will see.
Okay, so I've got to come clean. This morning, I get the notification that the box has arrived. Okay,
it arrived.
I got a notification the box has arrived.
It's on the continent.
It's not only on the continent; it's right next to me as we speak.
Oh no!
Open it up. Open it up.
Bambos doesn't know this, but I've got the box right here. Yes. I've got the box right here. I took it off so that Bambos could get into it. Just for the record, I don't know what I thought that there must be gold in here because I had to pay $28 in custom fees to get it out of the.
That's an expensive hat.
$28. I looked at the woman.
There's
I said,
a racket there. I paid money to have that sent over and filled out that custom sheet. Somebody's making money on us. Somebody's
making money. That's what I told her. But regardless, this is the box. And I thought, what better opportunity than on the show to have it happen? And isn't it incredible that that arrived today? Like, what are the chances of that?
Like,
so
very slim.
I say, luck is a skill.
Yes, luck is a skill. Simon Squibb. Here we go, Bambos. This is it for you. You could please open it up. Please open it up and let the viewers see each.
Oh my God!
Come on, let's take a look all together now. Oh, beautiful! There's a nice card for you,
Bambos. As a fellow hat wearer, the Jack Daniels has sparked the need for a Kentucky bourbon hat. Hope you like them. The 47 brand is a Louisville Carnival hat. See you on 9th of October. John Clay Barnett.
Beautiful. Here we go. Bambos, please try them on one by one. Fashion show. This is it. This is the fashion show.
Are you ready?
Are you ready for this? Da, 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 da. Oh, look at that, Bambos.
That one is, I believe, a Kentucky Derby hat.
And I have
this year.
And I have to say, the hat that I was wearing was from my nephew. I don't drink alcohol at all.
Yeah, he didn't even know.
Advertise it, can't you?
Yeah. Let's see what the first hat looks like on
that's a
Bamba.
good thing, not
God.
drinking alcohol. It's a bad habit.
Oh my God, I love it. You look so American. He could drive a truck with this hat on.
Yes,
That's the
yes.
first one.
So
I love it. That's a beautiful hat. The second hat looks beautiful. I'm enjoying the second hat.
Andy, would you like to have one?
No. These are your hats. No.
He doesn't get one.
I don't get one, Bamos. This is all about you. Okay, go ahead. Put on the second one.
You have to untighten it, Andy.
I know your hat. Look at that, Bambas. It even matches my my blue shirt I've got on right now.
It's the Kentucky Derby with no fans.
Okay, so now we got the second hat.
That's the University of Louisville Cardinals. 47 is a brand out of Boston.
Uh-huh.
That's basically the hat that fits me well. But that's the University of Louisville Cardinals.
Look at that, but keep that on for a second, Bambas. Let me see in that.
I need to adjust it.
Oh, you need to adjust
It's
it. Okay.
too
tight or
As a
too?
non-hat
tighten it
wearer,
there.
don't mess with the hat wearer.
Oh, look at that. That's a really clean hat, Bambos. That makes you look strong. I like the Kentucky hat. The Kentucky Bourbon. Now, are you joking or what? Look at that. That gives you a really good look. That's probably my favorite from all of them, actually.
Well, now that we know that it won't cost an arm and a leg too much, I might see what other things I can dig up.
Put this one back. Let me see this one, Bambos. Put this one back on.
Go away. So I want to thank you, like the intention and the love in these hats.
Yes.
And now I'm gonna become an alcoholic.
Just for you.
Just for
Just for
you.
you, JC.
Like I say, most people that drink wine or drink whiskey or drink whatever, the first purpose is to create conversation. It's not to consume.
Yes, it's to
It's
relax.
to create conversation. You know, I've been into many a tavern where I had one drink and didn't finish it, but I stayed in there for 2 hours talking to people.
Yeah.
You know, that's not, people are, consume it, get drunk. No, it's to gather together. You know,
In
as we
communion.
say, taverns started out as the village's multi-purpose room. It was your school, it was your church, it was your store, and then it was your tavern. And your tavern was there to create community.
Yeah, that's where all the business was done, in the tavern.
Yes, and in the earlier days, again, my relatives built Barnett Station in Ohio County, Kentucky, which was nothing more than 4 buildings with a wall around it, and that's just where everybody met. And it was the building that was, again, your general store, your church, your school, your general meeting room when you got everybody together. So, you're not going to build different buildings out on the edge of the frontier. Seems like, I was very fortunate that I had a grandmother and a great aunt that did all my history homework.
Nice.
So I know exactly where I came from.
And then you went and taught history.
And then I taught history. And one thing I know about history is that history is perceptional. There's a good side and a bad side. And anybody who speaks in absolutes is bound to be proven wrong, because we learn something new every day where we came from. Okay. And hopefully the good side of history will always take precedent over the bad side of history as far as learn, never miss the opportunity to learn, and always take the good side to it.
Yeah, I think that there's something impressive about seeing that a lot of times history itself is really written from the perspective of the victor,
Yes, which is not always the best perspective.
No, because, even as you look today in American politics, as history gets written about this period, it certainly, I don't believe we'll look back at this as a bright period in American history. I don't think that will be the case.
In the darkest days, those positive lights will always come through.
Yeah.
At least I hope they will. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're one side is doing a bad thing, there's always going to be those people that do good things.
Yeah.
And no matter what, it just, a lot of people take their history from Hollywood. Those are the worst people to teach you history. And even in your own history books, remember, somebody wrote it with a direction in mind.
Sure.
And we're always learning every day with DNA, with archaeologists. We're learning something new every day. So what we knew 20 years ago is not necessarily true nowadays. Okay. We're just, when you think you're right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And,
And so many details come to light far a long distance after it actually occurred that we then learned that it was all different than we thought it was. JC Bolalang is telling us that he finds you a lovely soul to listen to. So
well, thank you very much.
No, he actually enjoys you as much as you enjoy him, which is really nice to see.
Which goes to show you right there. We got one person in Kentucky, one person in South Africa. How about we meet somewhere, Miami?
I'd love to have a summit.
Amsterdam would be perfect.
I would love to have a wonderful chaos summit. That would be the best.
Oh, wow.
We've gone 5 minutes over, so we are now.
J C Barnett, you are loved.
You are loved, JC.
Well, thank you.
And appreciated.
I will take that any day. That'll get me through the day, and probably tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that in the
my Ale 8, my Kentucky ginger ale.
Oh, I love it. In the
I need to say one thing.
What was that?
I tried to zoom in all the photos of the food that you were eating while reading the Wonderful Chaos. The Wounded Healer, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, the Wonderful Chaos is the next book from Andy. But I couldn't identify the food most of the time.
Southern
that's a
food.
good thing. No, that is a cafe or a breakfast diner that's been around since the colonial days.
No wonder.
And the food's not that old, but the place is. And I don't always, even though my wife jabs me about eating healthy, if it's good, it's good. What I was eating there that day, I think, was eggs Benedict.
I thought I saw some sort of gravy on like those typical.
That was Benedict sauce.
Wow.
In my coffee, I always go with honey or sorghum. I gave up the white stuff 30 years ago. Local honeys, local sorghum. If you know what sorghum is,
I don't know what sorghum is.
Sorghum is when farmers grow sugar cane, and they grind the sugar cane and get the juice, and then they distill it. Not as far as alcohol, but they cook it up, and it's basically cooked up sugar cane.
Like
people in Boston don't know what it is. In fact, the manager of that thing, I brought him a jar of sorghum about 2 years ago, because when I asked him, he goes, "What in the hell is that?" And I said, "Well, next year when I come, I will bring you a jar."
Do me a favor. Don't bring it.
It tastes like I tell you, hot chocolate, tea, and coffee. It makes it taste fantastic.
Really?
And I go with local honeys. I'm a big local honey fan, as far as that goes. I gave up the white powdered stuff. That sounds kind of funny. A long time ago, and go with more natural sweeteners.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, and I'm a big, farmer's market type of person, local cafes. Gave up the chains a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
If you see me in McDonald's, I'm there to either get a cup of coffee or go to the bathroom. That's it.
Yeah.
So I don't go
For
to
the record.
For the record, yes. I just don't do that. I go to places where I know the cook is handing me the plate.
Yeah.
And that's the way to deal with it. And believe in, I've got a huge support group that dates back to when I was 8 and 9 years old. I still keep in contact with those people. And again, my days at Notre Dame I was very lucky to be there. And I was lucky to have the students I had.
Yeah.
And learn, and believe me, I was learning as much from them as the other way around. Believe me, most of the time I thought, God, I just screwed up. Well,
I wish I had a teacher like that.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone needs a J C Barnett.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I actually had 2 ulcers at Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah.
And Bitterman.
Ulcers, stomach ulcers.
Pain in the stomach.
Yeah.
From basically being on campus from 5 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock at night, 5 days a week, and teaching 5 classes in between. Bitterman found this out and basically says, your assistant coaches, I don't want to see you here past 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I want your assistants to take your 5 o'clock in the morning workout, and I want them to take it after 4 o'clock. And the first day I didn't listen to him. And he came back. He goes, I'm to keep you alive, I'm going to fire you if you don't do what I tell you to do. So I did until my ulcer got better. And so remember, Bitterman, I told you, Bitterman's the one that when I played that song that had been banned by the Vatican, and I got called to the principal's office. That Billy Joel song, So Bitterman was a lot in my life, whether he was yelling at me or saying "good job."
Yeah.
I just pointed to the Presbyterian Church. What do I know?
I got to the Bitterman's office for a lot of that mischief as well, of course.
Yeah, Andy was a real rebel.
Yeah, Andy.
It kind of ran that. His brother was a good athlete and was a good member of my team. How's he doing?
He's doing well. He's got the proper life. He's in San Fernando Valley. He's got a law firm, and he's doing the things he's supposed to be doing.
Well, next time you communicate, tell him I said hello.
I will,
and tell him to look on that. See, you've been going to that Notre Dame alumni Facebook page, right?
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't think he's on Facebook. He's got a reputation to uphold. I gave up on that a long time ago.
Well, I hope all those pictures makes everybody happy. Again, I had a couple of people complain that nobody is reaching out or communicating anymore, so that's why I dropped them all on there.
Great.
It seems to have created a stir.
Yeah.
And, well,
it's a great time in our lives.
It's always good to talk to people. It's always good to talk to people.
Thank you for joining, JC.
Thank you, JC.
Really great being with you.
My pleasure. Holler if you need another hour filled up.
Yeah, I love it. Send you a hug,
maybe we
man.
can bring your wife next time also.
Yeah, exactly. I want that dynamic. That'll be a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, well.
For us, not for you.
It's totally up to you. I'll ask her.
Thank you, JC.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Fun. I kind of want to have an interview between JC and Bolalang because they watch so many of the shows. It would be fun to listen to those two on the same talk, just talking to one another about.
We'll just be watching.
Just watching. Oh, wow. So that's it. It's Friday, Bambos. You've got some new hats.
Andy, as if a fucking day makes a difference.
It does, because the next 2 days we won't be together.
I'm gonna come to the house. Do you and your wife want to hang out?
Yeah, I think so. We don't go out right now. This COVID is so rampant.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
6,000 cases in a day in the Netherlands. Most of that's going on in Amsterdam. I don't want to be outside right now.
Have a nice weekend.
I love it when they say there's no, you don't need to quarantine. I'm like, yeah, thank you very much. It's I don't want to be outside right now. Are you kidding me? Crazy. Thank you, JC, for getting the hat wear. Wow.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so wearing. This one right now is the favorite.
Yeah, it is. It looks good on you as well, I have to say.
I know. Yeah. That one looks good on you.
Yeah, it looks like I'm
trying.
It looks like I'm a, what do you call it? Like a truck driver in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy.
Yes, Bambos.
Do you and Ronnie want to come to Cyprus in December?
We might. We can discuss it. I mean, the whole thing is whenever you fly someplace, you got to be able to fly back, and and if you contract COVID on the way or there, you got to figure out how to.
Actually, the case down there is very, very minimal.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
They kind of got really jealous because people are living normal now.
Oh, in Cyprus?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's worth a discussion.
Yeah.
Well, we won't be discussing that on
A Wonderful
Chaos, but we will be discussing other things on A
Wonderful
Chaos. Bye-bye.